Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, thank you all for registering, attending. I know we got some clients on here. We got some people that from the industry. So really appreciate it and looking forward to trying to deliver as much value for you guys. With that, let's go ahead and get started here. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about getting clear goals and targets. And some of this we're actually going to use, I have an example for you guys of about a $1 million company. Some of you guys may be bigger or smaller, but I'm going to share with you the example that I have to understand your numbers and track your KPIs and where to start and what kind of KPIs you should be tracking, because marketing isn't just getting leads, it's converting leads and making sure that those leads, we have a plan with those leads. We're going to map out a plan for a budget, the marketing channels that we should focus on. We're also going to talk about some of the important trends. We're actually going to talk about that first, some of the trends from 2024 headed into 2025 and how you can prepare your business for that. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to go over this one-of-a-kind calculator, which I have in a different tab up here, and go through an example company and how you can start preparing your marketing budget. And also, what does it look like to start looking at how your team is performing and how does that impact your business? So you guys put the weather in the chat. I'm going to ask a couple times periodically through this. I really love when there's engagement in webinars because the platform I'm using, I cannot see any of you. So if you're on camera or not, I can't tell. So your engagement in the chat is really helpful to me. So let's start by, if you guys wouldn't mind, just put the industry that you serve in the chat. And I'll give you guys about 15 to 20 seconds to put that in there and kind of see what we have with us today, because I know we have some plumbers, I know we have HVAC companies, probably have some mix in here. I kind of want to know who I'm talking to. All right, Hans does a little bit of everything. We got a lot of HVAC, Brennan's plumbing, septic, drains, plumbing, a lot of HVAC. We got like Josh is an electrician, awesome. Restoration, fabulous, awesome, thank you. All right, so the big question everyone wants to figure out, right? Because we all have goals and things that we want to accomplish in the new year. It's how much revenue do you want to generate in the next year? If you don't want to put the answer in the chat, that's totally fine. But for those that do, what is your goal for this upcoming year? I'd love to hear and see what those numbers look like for you. We'll see if anyone's brave enough to put it in the chat. And that's okay. If not, I want to throw out there just that the whole purpose of this and answer or having these questions in the chat is so that way we get engagement. Maybe there's someone that you see in the chat that you want to engage with outside of here and learn from, because maybe they're a step ahead of you or a step behind you and you want to learn from them. So this is already, it's important just to network with other people. It's one of the best things that you can get out of any presentation or any networking event you go to, is to actually talk to people and get to know them. So we got companies of all sizes in here. We got some that are getting ready to hit 1 million, 1.2, Soren wants to hit 3, 5, Hans at 8. Fantastic. So a lot of mid-sized companies here, not too small, not too big. So this is perfect. This content should be great for you. Mark just started last year. Be pleased to hit 100K. I have a feeling you're going to do much better than that, Mark. You're already here and you're already ready to learn. So that tells me a lot about you already. So appreciate you guys sharing that stuff. So real quick, if you don't know who I am, I was in the HVAC industry for 9 years. I have held pretty much every position inside of a company, except you would not want me to service or install any equipment. I've done all of the other jobs, as you can see, and every single company that I've ever been at, we've always grown. And we've always grown organically and through honestly rolling up sleeves and just kind of doing the work that nobody else really wanted to do. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So my philosophy on marketing is, once someone becomes a customer, keep them. There is a lot of ways to lose customers. And we've taken this approach even with Relentless Digital. Since day one, we've always focused on retention and keeping our customers, whether that's through providing some sort of additional value, great customer service, doing a little extra, giving value like webinars and podcasts and things like that, so that way they can learn along with us. Those are things that we really focus on, because we want to make sure that when we have a customer, we keep that customer. And I want you to keep that same mindset as we go through this stuff and you go through the new year, because everybody's always looking for new leads. Well, with you guys sharing me with the weather in your market, there is not a whole lot of new leads, most likely, especially if you do HVAC as one of your trades. There's not a whole lot of new leads right now. And it's also Christmas time and it's New Year's, and people don't want to spend money with you. This time happens every single year. So it's important to make sure that we always are talking and engaging with our existing customers, because those people can help fill gaps in our schedule. All right, so the biggest marketing trends in 2024, some of this guys you guys already know about and have heard about, but obviously AI has completely exploded. It's really been on the scene for about 2 years, but this last year, it's a topic of conversation everywhere. Online scheduling continues to grow. My wife, who is an older millennial, she's at kind of the top end of that age group. She pretty much will not book anywhere unless she can book online. That includes restaurants and other places like that. She doesn't really want to pick up the phone and talk to someone. So that market, the millennial age, is the biggest group of homeowners today. It's not boomers anymore, baby boomers. So this is something that you want to keep in mind, is who are the customers in your market. Two-way text messaging, AI lead follow-up, authentic video content, and AI voice to answer phones. These are some of the biggest trends. Maybe they're not all marketing specific, but they are related to marketing and operations. So these are the questions we're going to answer throughout this webinar. We're going to talk about, first and foremost, right off the bat, is AI search replacing Google and taking market share? What is the right mix of marketing channels to help me reach my goals? I have a calculator that's going to help you determine that. How can I decrease my marketing spend as a percentage? So not actually decrease the dollars, but the percentages from revenue, and still grow your business? And which AI tools can help me grow my business as we move forward? All right, so in order to set our goals, we have to know where we are coming from. So outside of Mark, who just started his business, everyone's probably got at least a year or 2 years in business. So we need to look back and look at the numbers that we have. Most of you guys probably have CRMs or FSM programs, House Call Pro, Sarah, Field Edge, Service Titan, etc. These things all track data for you. The problem with a lot of the CRMs is there's so many features, it's hard to actually accumulate the data in a way that makes sense. And that's some of the stuff that I really want to focus on today, because in order for you to grow your marketing, you have to know your numbers. It's super, super, super crucial. And we'll talk about more of that in here in just a second. So a couple more questions before we really get into the meat of the content here is, what do you believe has worked very well for your business in 2024? I'd love for you guys to put some things, whether it's marketing related, maybe it was an AI tool, maybe it was a change to a different software, maybe it was making a key hire. What has worked well for you in your business in 2024? Mark said he's seen so many past employers not fully utilize their CRM. I think every business is guilty of that. So I definitely think that's not just it's not just a you problem, it's an everyone problem. Han says customer referrals in newly constructed neighborhoods. That's a great one. Nailing down ops procedure, referrals, showing up to local networking events. Thank you, Kimberly. That's an awesome takeaway. Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that stuff. So now on the flip side, what didn't work so well for you in 2024? Now, these answers, my guess is you guys will probably think more along the lines of what didn't work when it comes to marketing. Maybe a hire you thought was going to be fantastic, or a unicorn technician didn't work out, or maybe you realized you didn't have the right systems and processes in place. Maybe the software you were using just did not work at all for your business. And I probably should have separated these questions a little bit, because the ones that worked well and didn't work well are back to back. So it's a little hard to tell, but we got Facebook, and most of these look like marketing, PPC, a lot of paid search. Oh yeah, so we got a lot of paid search is not working for people. GMB, LSA, good, we're gonna talk about that stuff, John. Awesome. Really appreciate you guys putting that stuff in the chat. That really helps me understand who we're talking to here. So in order for us to set goals, I already talked about we need to know our metrics. So I put together very high level, I don't want to call them basic because I don't want to demean them, because there are deeper metrics we can get to, but these are based on my experience in talking to a lot of different business owners and thought leaders in the trades. These are some of the most important metrics that you can start to track for your business. So if you need to take a screenshot of this or just write these down real quick, I would absolutely write these down, because if you don't know these, it's going to be very hard for you to figure out some of the things we're going to talk about at the end. And what I would do is what I would implement in your business, and we do this for Relentless Digital. I never did this when I was in the trades. If I would know what I know now back then, I would have definitely done it. But have someone on your team. And if you don't have a team, you can hire a VA. VA for $6 to $8 an hour, maybe $10 an hour to help you do this stuff and report on these numbers to you weekly. So that way you can spot trends and you know where there are issues in your business. All right, so now we're going to get into marketing strategy. This is going to be very high level. For any of you that attended the Google business profile one that I did about 2 weeks ago, that one was much more in depth on that stuff. I have to stay high level so we can cover the highest level topics for each of these things. But just so you know, if you have questions about them in more depth, please reach out to me or drop them in the chat. All right. So we talked about, or I said that one of the biggest questions we're going to answer is, are AI search engines taking Google's market share? Because that's kind of the thing. I've seen some marketing people mention this. I've seen a lot of talk about it. Everyone's, there's a new term called answer engine optimization. So I listened in and I've been on several webinars lately to learn about this. And the only way to really learn about this stuff is to tap into people who have massive data sets. So one of those was it's a company called SparkToro. It's one word, SparkToro. They get information from a company called Datos, which is a SEMrush company. So for any of you guys that use SEMrush for looking at your website analytics and things like that, they have other companies that do data analysis. So they, over a course of about 20 months, they analyzed 332 million searches with about 130,000 different users. So a very, very big data set, something that you or I will not ever really have access to except through companies like this. And what they realize is, you can kind of see that in the graph here. So this is the percentage of that 130,000 people that were using AI in May of 23. Now that has grown a little bit since it was about 14 months or so, went from 14.6% to 17.1. There's still about 82.9% of people that are only using traditional search engines, Bing, Google. Those would be the big two. But this was interesting that in the blue box here, 99.8% of LLM tool users, AI tool users, are still using traditional search engines as well. They're using both. And so essentially, as you guys can tell from that, no, it's not taking any market share. So what's happening is people are just searching more. So they're using certain things for ChatGPT and Claude. They're using certain things for Google and the regular search. It just depends what it is. So it's not that people are using one or the other. They're using both, and they're using both more often. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. So don't let anyone tell you that ChatGPT is going to take over Google. It's not. Google's got a lot of money invested into things. It's not going to happen. If it does, it's going to take a while. All right, so in order to grow, we have to really do three things. We have to drive leads, we have to optimize for conversion or maximize conversion, and we have to optimize the results. So that's kind of like the three pillars, what we're gonna be talking about today. And each of these has buckets inside of there. And the first bucket we're gonna talk about is organic SEO. And this is things like your website, your Google business profile, Bing places, Apple Maps, your local Yelp listing. We're going to get into just a couple of those things at a real high level here. And one thing before we get into all of that you really need to understand, and some of you guys may have seen this news, some of you may not, the Department of Justice has really gone after Google with a massive antitrust lawsuit. And that's the reason I'm bringing up all of these other platforms on here, because when people think of local search, it's Google, right? It's Google. That's all they talk about. But the Department of Justice is talking about potentially having Alphabet, is the parent company of Google, Alphabet have to either sell off the Google Chrome browser or some variations of their products, which would open the door for other products to take market share. Apple Maps is a great example. I'm not a big Apple fan in our house. I'm the only one that has an Android phone, but Apple has had a Maps product for a long time through Apple Business Connect. And I've kind of been just sitting here waiting for them to do more with it because it's already ready to go. They have a rating system. You can add photos. You can kind of do a lot of the same things you can do with your Google Business Profile. So as soon as, if something comes down the line where all of a sudden Google can't be the default Maps app on some of these devices, all of a sudden you have 130 million Apple users that will instantly start using Apple Maps. And if your business isn't listed on there and you don't have ratings on there, or you don't have a good Yelp listing because Yelp and Apple are tied together, or at least Apple needs data from Yelp, these things can really hurt your business. So these are just things to be prepared. There's nothing really super actionable unless you don't have a listing, but it is something that you need to know. All right, so from a high level, when it comes to your website, there's literally only have one slide for your website because one, this is a personal belief. Websites are still important, but they're more so important from a branding and conversion aspect, not necessarily where people are you're going to get a ton of clicks from local buyers. You'll get clicks from blog posts, you'll get clicks from other things, but those aren't necessarily local buyers that are looking for service today. So here's some of the key points. You want to have one page per service. So air conditioning repair, air conditioning maintenance, air conditioning installation, so on and so forth. That could look like for plumbing, water heater installation would be one page, water heater repair another page, tankless water heater installation another page. You want one page per city that you provide service in. Most of the time when we ask clients for cities, they give us the big ones. The problem is Google is so good at understanding near me search queries and exactly where I am based on my location, my phone's location or my desktop's location, that if I'm in a different town or a smaller city, something that maybe only has 2,000 people or 5,000 people, we really should have a page for that too. So there is a tool, I probably should have put it on here, but there's a tool that you can throw in your address and do like a radius around your address, and it will give you a list of all the cities and towns in your market. And that's something that we use for clients to help them determine like additional city pages that they can do. The other thing I would recommend, this doesn't apply for electrical or plumbing as much, but I would have one page per your primary service, meaning your primary trade. So for HVAC, you have heating and air conditioning. I would have one of each per city. Use real photos. I'm gonna talk about this again later. Nothing makes me cringe more than when I go to websites and I see either 0 or 1 photo per page and the photo is a stock image. We all have camera phones. We all have tools like ServiceTitan or Company Cam or Google Drive. Take photos, figure out a process to have your team do this or make it part of their checklist. Get those photos either to your internal marketing team or to your marketing outsourced vendor like us and send it to them. It helps. I promise you it helps. Mention more than 1 photo per page and then highlight the brands that you use. Homeowners recognize Trane, Carrier, Bryant. They don't necessarily recognize your brand. It's not a household name. So use those brands so it's when they land on a page on your site, they understand what you do and who you work with. It helps with trust. All right, some of the stuff I went way more in depth last week, so I'm gonna run through this pretty quick. This is all Google Business Profile related. Your location matters a ton. We've all heard location, location, location. It matters a ton in today's world. I don't know why I had that in the background there, but this was an example. We had a client that wanted to rank in Bozeman. If you look at the right-hand side of your screen, this is Google Maps definition of Bozeman. The client's location is the red arrow. And you can see they're not listed in Bozeman. And you see on the left-hand side, the rankings dip as soon as we start getting into that city. I've seen this countless times, and I sometimes let people argue with me about it, but this is just the way the game is played today, so location matters a lot. Your primary category is your number 1 ranking factor. That has been proven time and time again. Now, every single trade that you guys mentioned here in the chat has multiple categories you can choose from. Now, for plumbers and electricians, typically plumber or electrician is the best category. But for HVAC, if like right now, and I'm just gonna use, I saw Jeff Jordan on here. I know he's in Minnesota. I know it's cold. Furnace repair service would be the best category. It's better than HVAC contractor because it's more relevant to exactly what we need right now. On the flip side, in the spring or in the summer, changing that to air conditioner repair service would be a really valuable thing to do. So I would not stick with like HVAC contractor because it's too bland. Stick with something that's more relevant for the types of jobs you need right now. This is just an example of what happened when we changed this HVAC contractor in Illinois to air conditioning repair service. That's literally the only change we made. I don't have the dates on here, but it was a couple days apart. You can see the difference in our maps rankings. The name on your Google Business Profile is important. I just had this conversation with someone who's rebranding yesterday. They wanted to do their name Comfort Solutions. The problem is it misses the important parts of having keywords in your name like heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical services, solar. So it's important to make sure that stuff is in your name. And there's different ways that you can go about that with DBAs and other things like that. SAB listings don't rank well. People like to fight me on this one too. And I show them the screenshot, and then that usually ends the argument that I'm going to show you guys next. But highly recommend getting an office. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a massive warehouse. Just an office in the city, as we talked about that first slide I showed you guys with the location. Get it inside the city that you want to rank. This is literally all we did. Look at the dates. We changed them from an SAB listing to a physical office. This is literally actually before they became a client. Look at the difference. So you guys people can argue with me, but the results are, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Make sure you fill out everything in the profile. Pretty self-explanatory, but people still don't do this. So make sure every single inch of that profile is filled out. Excuse me. In the last year, Google has given us the ability to add social profiles and connect them to our Google business listings. So make sure that's being done. And if you don't have profiles on all of the main social media sites, LinkedIn, X, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, make sure you get links on there. Even if you don't post much, just get a link on there. It's a great backlink for your business, and it does carry some weight. We're gonna talk about this much more later, and I'm gonna give you guys some tips on getting reviews more consistently, but this is by far one of the most important conversion factors for getting the phone call or the click on Google. All right, so I'm gonna talk just real briefly about these different other places that you can be listed online and why I think they're important. I have videos about most of this stuff. The image on the right-hand side is our YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out. I have a lot of stuff about Apple Maps and ChatGPT and all kinds of things. So there's a lot of really good videos on there. But we talked about Apple and why I think it's so important, because if something happens with the Department of Justice, I'm a firm believer that Apple is going to be one of the biggest opportunities for you. You can create a profile for free on Apple Business Connect. So just Google Apple Business Connect and set up a profile for yourself. It's really not that hard. I do have a video, actually 2 videos on how to do that if you go to my YouTube channel. I mentioned Bing. Bing still has about 3.5% of all search market share, which obviously doesn't sound like a lot, but that's still tens or hundreds of millions of searches a day. And Microsoft, who is investing heavily to the tune of, I think it's like $8 billion over the last 12 months, 15 months, something like that, has invested heavily into ChatGPT. So Microsoft owns Bing. They're investing in ChatGPT. I'll let you guys do the math there and figure out why you need to make sure that you have a Bing. It's called Bing Places for Business listing. Make sure you have a listing on there. Make sure it's filled out. You can also connect your Bing Places listing to your Google Business profile. So if you update something on Google, it will update on Bing. Yelp. I know, I'm sure I'm getting some eye rolls right now if I could see your faces. Yelp, I'm not telling you to go do advertising on Yelp. However, you guys have all seen and probably Googled yourself at some point. Yelp shows up on page 1 extremely consistently for almost all local near me type searches. Have a profile, have it listed. Use it as a secondary review source if you have some good customers that wouldn't mind leaving your review there, because it does matter. And Apple uses Yelp. I think there's actually a couple of voice search engines. I think Alexa and Siri use Yelp's data too. So if somebody talks to their phone and says, find me the best air conditioning contractor near me, they're pulling from Yelp. So just know that happens. And if you don't have a profile, you have 0 chance of showing up. All right, so next we're gonna, actually most people want, I know we had a couple people mention in the chat they are struggling with paid ads. I'm actually gonna talk about social media for most of this next section. And it'll make a lot more sense when I talk about it. Paid ads, I'm gonna go over just very, very briefly, because honestly, I think social media is still a vastly underutilized tool for most of the trades. So I'm gonna talk about some do's, and then I'm gonna give you guys some examples back from my time at Professional Services and how we were able to essentially own our local Facebook group market. So one of the most important things we did is I joined a ton of local Facebook groups. So what I would do, if we have your list of cities in your service area, have someone on your team, whether it's you or it's a VA that you give a profile, whatever it is, have them join and just go into the search bar in Facebook, type in the city and just see if any groups make sense. The biggest one for us was called Port Washington Voice, and it was an awesome group. And I'm gonna show you guys what that looks like here in a second. This is one of the biggest things, and you guys all see this in the trades Facebook groups that you're a part of as well. A lot of people will spam when someone's asking for a vendor or a tool, and they spam with their link or DM me. Do not be that person. Give value. So if somebody asks a question about a leaking water heater, don't just say, call me, or put the name of your company. Give some value, ask questions, try to engage with that person. One, you're gonna get looked at entirely different than people that just drop the company name, because after you have 10, 20, 30 company names dropped in that thread, nobody knows who to call. They have no idea. They're just as confused as they were before. But if they have someone asking them questions and kind of doing like a diagnosis, one, other people probably have that issue or have had that issue, and they're going to realize that you're just different than everybody else. So don't sell in those groups. The people that put the little dot or F or following, ask them questions, because most likely they're having the same problem, and that's why they're following that thread. And then my last tip for Facebook groups is only post from your personal profile, not your business profile, because usually most groups won't allow that anyways, but it's just better for you to be looked at as the expert versus the business. So here's some examples that you guys can see. So this is during a cold snap, which I'm sure you guys in the North are familiar with. Just share value. Literally not asking anyone to call us for service. I'm not giving away any offers or anything like that. I posted a picture of the weather coming up, which was going to be very cold. And I shared a post from Professional Services with my personal profile that gave all this value. Got shared 25 times in this group. The group only had about 4,000 people at the time, and got a ton of engagement. And again, we just get looked at differently. Here's another example, keeping the exhaust pipes clear and why you need to do that. It's really simple. I mean, honestly, if you guys come back to this presentation, you want to copy word for word what I said, I don't care. I've had people use this post over and over again. I see it once in a while when it comes to demand weather time, but things like this would be a really great thing to have in your repository of posts that you can make. What happens when there's inclement weather? Do you have a post? There are things that people should know. Have that stuff kind of in a repository. You can use ChatGPT to help you write it. Just have it saved somewhere, so that way when the moment strikes, when everybody's talking about the weather, they're talking about something coming up, you can be Johnny on the spot and have that post ready, and then that post will get a lot of engagement. A couple other social media do's. Automatically share 5 new 5-star reviews, because your 5-star reviews on Google are great for Google. However, that's only like 3% of people that are searching for a provider today. The rest of the world is not searching for you today, so we need to tell them about the great work we're doing. If we don't tell them, they don't know. So I know a lot of people take pride in the work that they do, and they just want the work to speak for themselves. The problem with the world we live in today is if you don't tell someone, they don't know what's going on. They're going to get distracted with something else. So share this stuff often. Showcase your work. Before and afters are great. I've seen some people do videos where they do like a kind of a before panorama video, and then they switch to the new system or whatever it is they put in. Those always do great. Post images of your customers with your text or yard signs. I actually had someone on the podcast yesterday, High Five Plumbing out of Denver. I don't know if anyone in Colorado knows them. They actually take selfies giving their customer a high five, and then get permission to share that on social media. So just a really clever idea. Everybody loves a high five, and it creates great engagement for the business. Post internal team meetings and trainings and why you guys are training. I'm going to share an example here in the next slide. And then one of the biggest things, and this is a big hurdle for a lot of people, create video content. You have to learn to get comfortable on camera. I'm just gonna let that sink in for just a second, because I know you don't want to hear it. You've already heard it probably a bunch of times, but I'm living proof that getting on camera and sharing what you know is valuable, and people will they will react to your content. And I did put some tools down here on the bottom that makes life a little easier for us. CastMagic. CastMagic is a content repurposing tool, uses AI and some prompts. Opus Clip is great for taking a video like this, where it's longer, and turning it into short videos for Reels, TikTok, and Shorts, things like that. And then BigView is a teleprompter app. So you put it on your phone, you can type out exactly what you want to say if you're really not comfortable on camera. So have the script in there, and it will actually play right below the camera setting, and you can just read the script so it doesn't look like you're not looking at the camera. Here's some more examples. This was a post. This was back when Brittany and I were at a company called 𝐲𝐮𝐫. We had a really big cold snap. This was the best post I've ever made. I've got almost 1,000 shares on it and a ton of comments. Got some huge engagement from our team. But this post over here, this is something I did pretty regular when we had our techs doing training. Just tell why. What topic are they going over? Why are we doing it? Why is it so important that our team trains every single week? It was Tuesday, Friday when we were there. Why do we train every single week and have topics? Because we want to make sure that our customers are happy, healthy, safe, and comfortable. On the right-hand side, I'm going to play this short little 15-second clip. This is what's possible if you guys take Facebook groups seriously. This was somebody looking for services. This was the comment section. This was after about a year of us being there and regularly contributing to the group. So that was, I have literally like 4 or 5 different video screen shares of that saved. I just picked one. This happened over and over and over again. Some of you guys are in Facebook groups now because I employ the same strategy with Relentless Digital. We get the same type of feedback, and we get named in a lot of these different groups and posts as well, because we just try to give value. So I highly recommend you guys do that. One other thing as far as do's is, if you need content ideas, which sometimes I know is a struggle, obviously you can ask ChatGPT for content ideas. Give them some context about your business. Ask them to give you 25, 50, or 100 ideas for social media posts after you give them some context. Really simple thing to do. It's free. Also, ask.com is also free. Type in your main service, and they will give you a ton of questions that people ask online that you can do videos about. All right, so we talked about some do's. I'm going to quickly talk about some don'ts. Don't use stock images. We've already covered that. You need to be consistent when posting. I put that actually in here twice. Honestly, you need to be posting almost every day, or hire someone to post almost every day for you. You need to use videos. I would highly recommend, if you're not comfortable with video, start with short form. Short form is much easier than long form content. Just start. Also ask for ChatGPT, come up with some quick scripts, and just start. Your first videos are not going to be great. It's okay. We've all been there. It's okay that they're not great. You will get better. And as you create content, you will start to see things differently, and you will start to realize when your techs have questions, or your office staff has questions, or a customer asks a question, you start turning those into content topics and video ideas. You'll start thinking differently. And then you can also come up with a repository that you can send customers. Hey, you had a question about this? Here you go. We used to do this with when jobs got booked. I had YouTube videos for winter and summer, as far as, before we get out there for a service call, check these 3 or 4 things. And if these, like, check your circuit breaker, check your filter, make sure that the switch on the furnace isn't turned off. We actually saved people some service calls for that. And honestly, those would have been terrible service calls for our team to run, because we would have went out there, collected our 99 bucks, and been there for about 5 seconds. And it's just not a good fit for us. And that those customers actually called back in. We're very thankful that we saved them time and money. And also our team didn't want to go on those service calls. So use videos to help position your business as the value and thought leader in your market. And then lastly, stay away from politics. If you're posting from your personal page, save that from somewhere else or a private group. You just don't want that stuff to come back to you regardless of what you believe. And then don't use industry jargon. If you need help with that because you talk industry jargon all day, use ChatGPT and tell it to spit you back the information using like a 5th grade reading level. All right, so the reason we talked about all the organic stuff with social and with SEO and your website and everything else is because that is the core foundation of a strong digital presence. In order to grow, we do at some point need to facilitate paid ads into that. So we're gonna go over paid ads here quickly next. But if you don't have a strong organic foundation and you're not getting a great ROI on that spend, you're gonna have even more troubles. It's gonna be very expensive for you on the marketing side. Typically our customers range anywhere from like a 15 to our top performers who are really, really, really great operators, sometimes up to like 80x ROI on our fees. And I'll show you guys how we know that information. But by having that such a great ROI there, it makes it, because typically pay-per-click, and you're going to get anywhere from like a 4 to 8x if you're doing a good job. That it's going to balance the two, so that way that marketing spend doesn't creep up too high. All right, so why most PPC campaigns fail? Again, we're going to talk. I have like 2 slides about PPC, so I'm not going to go super deep in this. This is also something that we are not the most. We're not the best at, so I don't want to make sure. I want to make sure that you guys don't ask a bunch of PPC questions because I may not be able to answer all of them. But a lot of issues that I see are you set up only one ad group for all services. So if you're a plumber and you do water heaters, you do drains, you do sewers, each of those things need to be a separate ad group. So that way you can track those things, and they all need to have separate landing pages. So that way you can track performance and conversion on those pages. You don't have a strong call to action or offer. Offer is one of the biggest reasons you get a click. If you guys all go to a big market and type in whatever the main service is, you'll see that a lot of times they lead with free service call or free service call with repair. They lead with something that is going to generate a click. It's kind of a telltale sign for you because they're spending a ton of money. Like in here in the Phoenix area, Parker & Sons, Semperfi, Gettle, some of the biggest companies in the industry are in Arizona. And if they're doing that, there's a reason they're doing it, because they're spending millions of dollars on PPC. So I'm not saying to use the same offer, but I am saying that they're doing market research for you, so you can swipe and deploy those things pretty easily. And then one of the other biggest reasons that that PPC campaigns fail, and all marketing fails really, is operations are weak. And we're gonna really talk about that here towards the end. Here's a landing page example. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but we did talk about this a little bit. You got to have brands like Train on here. I think Ali is actually on the call here today. If you've won awards like Expertise or the Next Door Neighbor of the, I don't know what they call it, Next Door Neighbor of the Year or whatever, put those things on your site because people resonate with that. Like, oh, this must be a great company. And then that's how you get the click. Put your offer front and center. As you can see it, we put it at the top with the special offer, and then in the middle. And those things should all be tested regularly. Like if this is not working, test a new offer. And if that one doesn't work, test another. Don't be afraid to test these and see what resonates with your market. All right, local service ads. This has been a painful topic for just about everyone for the last year or so. So I'm gonna go over some of the changes and the important things that you can focus on. So first of all, LSA verified reviews are gone. That's actually that's probably the one good change that's happened from LSA this year. What that means is all reviews go back to your Google business profile. So you don't have to worry about getting separate reviews on LSA, separate reviews on Google. How does that all play a part in the algorithm? You just get one place to get reviews, which is Google business profile. With that being said, you do need to have a verified Google business profile to run local service ads. LSA has had a ton of spam problems in the past, and I think this is Google's way of combating that. So you need to make sure, and you need to make sure the name matches on both. And sometimes that becomes an issue. Sometimes someone has ABC Heating Inc. as their Google business profile name, and they have ABC Heating as their LSA name. The LSA ads will not show if that name does not match exactly. So just keep that in mind. We can no longer dispute leads that are not good. There's a rating system. It's pretty much like a thumbs up, thumbs down. Was the lead good or not good? Google supposedly has an AI system that is supposed to be getting better at that. I haven't heard too much great feedback on it, but it is something to keep an eye on now. And costs with LSA are a ton more than they used to be. When LSA ads came out, when I was still in Wisconsin, they were like $22 to $25 a call. I think most industries are now about anywhere from 50 to 100. There's someone in restoration here. He would probably kill for a $100 lead. Water damage restoration is more like 200 or 250. So just keep an eye on it. This is also why you need to know your numbers, because you could be losing a ton of money, not even realizing it, because maybe you're getting not very good leads or your team's not converting very well. So pay attention to this, because the costs have definitely gone up a lot. All right, so next we're gonna talk about your database. This is actually one of my things I enjoy talking about the most. And I mentioned how we know our ROI for our customers and all that stuff. And that's really thanks to Searchlight. Searchlight was someone we partnered with about 2.5 years ago when we were trying to build out our reporting dashboards and wanting to understand just how well not only were we performing, but were our clients performing. Because marketing and operations, regardless of what you hear or see, they're tied at the hip. They have to work hand in hand and be cohesive. That's where the magic happens. That's where these companies grow so quickly, is because those two things are in sync. And for clients of ours, if you're on a certain program, you do get these dashboards. But what this means and what this really opened up for us is, you guys see the in the middle where it says revenue pipeline. Our clients over this year closed about $35 million in business, but there's $37 million in open estimates. I just want to let that sink in. There's $37 million across our client set that's open. It's just sitting there. And so it really becomes a question of, do you want to go get it or not? And I've had this conversation with some people recently, and some people don't want it. They don't want to bug their customers. They don't want to inundate them with messages. Here's the thing. If you're not doing it, somebody else is, and somebody else is going to go get that business. So you either want to grow or you don't. And that's, I'm not trying to make anyone angry. I'm not looking at the comments, so hopefully nobody's yelling at me. Brittany, come in here and get me if someone's yelling at me. But go get that business. It's yours. You've already been there. You've done the hard work. You got them to say yes. They're on your schedule. Go get that business. And we're gonna go over some campaigns and some ideas for you here. I'm gonna share some screenshots. I'm not gonna go too in depth on this, but we have an app. It's called Bullseye Pro. Clients get access to this. And then we also are selling this to the general public now. So even if you're not a marketing program client, you do get access to this. It does text messaging. It does emails. These are, if you guys want to take screenshots of any of these types of campaigns for ideas, these are all campaigns that our clients can run. And a lot of these are automated. So what does that mean? That means when something happens in your CRM, we can automate a campaign to go out. So somebody signs up for your membership program. All of a sudden they get a welcome email sequence, and maybe they get dripped out emails over the course of a year. Open estimates, post-job thank you and review requests, 12-month membership nurture and welcome, or membership welcome and nurture. We have campaigns by month, and a lot of these are built for HVAC right now. They're seasonal. So if it's cold, there's topics that we have in here that you can use that talk about just value add type emails that you can send to your customers. We can do this on an automated fashion as well. Here's some more these are more outbounding ones, as far as more like mass campaigns to your entire database. But we have ones, if you're struggling to fill your board, we have email templates that you guys can use that are really good at just getting engagement and filling your board quickly. Quarterly filter reminders, seasonal tune-up reminders, et cetera, et cetera. We have a lot of these in here. This all comes with our, here's a few more. So as you can see, there's a lot. We've done a lot of work on this over the last 2 years. And a lot of this came about from us being integrated with Searchlight and realizing just how much open revenue there was. Instead of going back to clients and saying, hey, you got to go spend more money, I'd rather have you go get more of what you already have gone to. And I think one of the things that us as a company, we're trying to get better at is get more people to adopt the app and really use this to its full advantage, because there's so much potential for you to use this. here's a couple more ideas. We've already went over this kind of ad nauseum, so I'll move on. So one quick story. And this was early on, about a year and a half ago, we had a company in Tulsa that it was April. They were dead because Tulsa didn't quite get that warm in 2023 until May. And so they had about 5,000 customers on their tune-up list, or just customers that they've had over the last couple of years. We sent out a outbound text message campaign, and we booked literally, it was a simple like $49 AC tune-up. There was nothing fancy about this. We didn't even follow up more than maybe twice. And they booked 300 tune-ups and brought in over $300,000 in revenue in April during a normally slow month. So their actual revenue for April that year was almost what it was in June or July when it was demand season, because they had replaced so many systems and done so much other work early in the season. So really important that you guys start having strategies for this stuff, because it can grow your business without having to spend any more money. This is a quote that I love, and I think everyone just needs to focus on what you can control. So you are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your own environment. You can make your life what you want it to be. So if something is struggling, you have the ability to make a decision to change direction. And a lot of times these conversations come up between marketing companies, contractors. I think the biggest thing is a lot of times the relationships don't work out is because the teams don't work together and they're not on the same page, they're not in sync. And I know that's difficult sometimes because it's an outsourced team and it's not someone that's in your office. But I urge you, if you have a marketing company that you're missing meetings or you're not working with closely, get on those meetings, engage, ask them questions. Make sure you're on the same page. Now, if you get on the same page and it's still not working, obviously you have your answer, you know what to do. But get on the same page first and make sure that you're trying to work with them before you move on. All right, website stuff, I'm not gonna talk about this much. I know we're already, I had a feeling this was gonna go a little long, but I can talk about this more, or you guys can take a screenshot of this. Just use real images. Do the things I told you about with the different pages, and it will help. Leverage social proof. There's a few more on this page. You guys can use special offers. These are things to try to entice a customer to call you. I would definitely focus on using an online booking solution. I know there are certain ones out there that are getting pretty pricey. I would highly recommend, if you don't have one or you're looking into one, to look into Autobot.ai. Much less expensive than some of the other ones that are out there. It integrates with ServiceTitan and soon to be House Call Pro. It also gives us marketing attribution, meaning it will tell me they came in from the Google business profile, or they came in from organic search or PPC and then booked online. So you can actually know the source and the campaign that converted it. And then you also, if somebody drops off in the middle, let's say it's 5 steps to book. If they drop off on step 3, we can actually grab that data, throw it into a campaign, and try to re-engage that person and book them. So just some really cool features. It was built by someone who has a contracting company and used to own a digital marketing company. So it's got the best of both worlds. Here's some examples of some websites. If you guys are on the call and want to look for some inspiration, you can go to this link here and check out some of the website designs and things that we have. So that way you can either get inspired, send some ideas to your web team, or just know what's out there and maybe some things that you want to change on your website. All right, we got to talk about reviews. I'm actually gonna hold this up. It's probably gonna be a little small because I just got these in the mail, and I have RFID tech on here, but these things, the best way to get reviews is to ask in home. And anyone that is on the call that is asking in home knows that that's the best way. They've probably seen the results. For example, there's a company here in Arizona, about a $100 million company. We were on a call with them, and they have someone call after they ask in home, and then they have someone do a happy call afterwards to also try to get a review. They got like 8,000 reviews. So these systems work if you put them in place. But getting things like this where someone can tap, pull up your link, and leave a review are great. QR codes work great. Incentivize your team. I think The automation side we're asking is great as a follow-up, but the conversion rate on that is maybe 5 to 8% when it's really good. Asking in home is the only way to make sure you're going to get a 20, 25, 30% rate of getting reviews. I mentioned this once earlier, but automatically share these things to social media. That's what we do. I did this at Professional Services through a tool called Zapier. I take new 5-star Google reviews, took an image, and I just shared it out to all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Even though we had like nobody following us on Twitter. I think I tried to even do it to Nextdoor. You can try to share this to anyone. And then these reviews also become great marketing pieces when you're trying to do estimate follow-ups. You can use these great reviews that talk about the specific solution or reason that someone should hire you and send that stuff out in an email campaign. So reviews can be used not only to get new business, but also to close the stuff that's in your existing pipeline. This is something I think needs to be talked about and needs to be talked about more because everyone's Google. That's all they talk about. Got to get reviews in Google, which that's true. However, we talked about some of the reasons why you might want to start thinking about getting reviews on other platforms. So Facebook reviews are tied to Bing. Bing is tied to ChatGPT. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys just kind of like the correlation there. So it's okay to get Facebook reviews too. I wouldn't, it'd probably be my second option. And then when it comes to Apple, we talked about Yelp. This is a screenshot from an Apple phone of what it looks like. You can see Yelp reviews show up. So Apple profile, at least try to get a couple reviews on there. And if you don't want to use Yelp or Yelp's not a big thing in your market, that's fine. But just try to get at least a couple reviews so you get a 5-star rating on Apple as well. Another case study for you guys. This client opened a second location. You guys can see the dates of these screenshot polls. We took a customer list of about 1,500 people and dripped it out over 2.5 weeks. And essentially we were just asking, would you recommend our services? If yes, we sent them a review. If no, we just try to get more information and then let them have the review link. We went from 0 to 35 reviews or so and optimized the profile at the same time. You guys can kind of see the results. And this is why the strategy of opening new business listings works really well for us and our clients, because we're able to do these things, but we have to get buy-in in order for these things to happen. The customer gave us a list and said, hey, go for it. And they got great results because of it. We already talked about Yelp a little bit. Just get a listing on there. If you have multiple Google business listings, have multiple Yelp listings. So that way you can tie them to each profile. All right, last big section before we get into the really cool tool that I'm very excited to show all of you is automation. We touched on it real briefly in the beginning, but is lead flow really the problem? My team, which actually some of them are in the chat right now, we hear a lot of times, especially right now. Right now, nobody's really super busy right now. It's the holidays. December is always like this. It's been like this for 12 years since I've been in the trades. It's probably never going to go away. I remember outbounding the couple days before Christmas on the phone at the first HVAC company I worked at because we were dead. So this stuff has been happening forever. So the question is lead flow really the problem? And the real problem lies in what happens with the leads once they come in. Not all the time, but most of the time, and some of this data is just data we've collected over the last couple of years, but about 50 to 60% of inbound leads are not converted. It's actually a little higher than that. I'll be able to show you that in the calculator in just a few minutes here. Web forms definitely don't convert very well. Most of that's just because people are too slow to reply. These booking rates that I'm sharing here are actual booking rates we have a human team that listens to calls, tags them as far as qualified lead and whether the job was booked or not. Booking rate is roughly in the mid 50s. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. And about 15% of all calls are missed or it's a lot of phone calls. I mean, our team tracks somewhere between, even like right now in December, like 6,000 to 7,000 calls a week. That's a lot of phone calls and a lot of missed opportunity. And this is the average. So our top performers are about 70% for booking rates. So I'll probably have people argue with me on that as well, because I know some people think their booking rate's 90, 95%. I can almost guarantee you someone's not putting that data in correctly. And And that's a big problem, is we think something is so strong, but it's actually the way those things are calculated and the way that the data is being input is giving us bad information. Bad data equals, or garbage data equals garbage output. So garbage in, garbage out. So those are things that I would, if you really think you're at 90% and you haven't done a full audit on it, maybe have someone audit those calls for you, because my guess is this, you're not actually at 90% of all people that booking that need to. Some of the stuff you guys have probably heard before. The goal is in the follow-up. I think that's, you guys all know that, but now with automation and AI, we can make that follow-up human-like, and we can automate it. So we can kind of get the best of both worlds now versus just automation that's kind of dry. Leverage marketing automation. This can be for anything, and I'll just get to the speed to lead campaigns, because we can pretty much automate things from just about anywhere you get leads from. Missed calls, form submissions, abandoned calls, website chat, even LSA message leads, we can pull from their API and automatically send out messages through 𝐲𝐭 Pro, and that will immediately help your responsiveness rate as well if you get those. I know message leads aren't always the greatest leads, but it is something that we can automate. We can even pull from Angie, HomeAdvisor, and Thumbtack's API and automate that, so that way instantaneously, as soon as a lead comes in, we can reply to them. Obviously review, if jobs cancel. This happens more so, I think, in the plumbing industry than anything, because if jobs are booked out too far, people just don't seem to be willing to wait on plumbers as they do some of the other trades. So that's something we can recapture. And then pre-selling memberships when we go out to job sites and we kind of do that marked, or that job on the way. Here's the website. If you guys want to learn more about 𝐲𝐭 Pro, feel free to take a look at that. Adam Dye, who's in the chat, he's actually our campaign coordinator. He runs a lot of these campaigns for us, so he'd probably be even a better person to ask about these campaigns than I would. All right, so we talked about a lot of different things of driving leads and maximize conversions. Now we have to talk about optimizing for results. So I'm going to kind of get to what I really want to get to was this calculator. I've been working on this for a while. Spent a lot of time kind of fine tuning this. So if you guys are able to click on this or at least type this in, feel free. It's contractor-growth-calculator.relentless-digital. Sorry for the long domain. It just is what it is. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to share a different tab. All right. So I built this tool to help with several things. One, to understand our team's conversion, to also help you understand some industry benchmarks. And this is just through different coaching organizations and things I've been a part of that I've learned over the years. Also to help us facilitate seasonality into our business. Obviously, HVAC has more seasonality than plumbing and electric, but plumbing and electric still has seasonality. So understanding that seasonality is important for us to figure out what gaps in our schedule we need to fill. And then we're also going to get into marketing budget. I put together some high-level metrics as far as like what you should be spending in each bucket. So that way you can kind of take your marketing spend and decide, okay, how much should I be spending per month and year on these platforms? So I took an example of a $1 million company that got about 3,500 calls. 2,000 of those were actual leads. 1,050 jobs booked, 700 jobs sold. Our average ticket is $1,500, and we have 4 employees. It's about $1 million company, as you can see here. And from that, we did about 500,000 in gross profit, 125 in net, 125 memberships. So we have a revenue per employee of $262,000, and our marketing spend for the year was about $75,000. When you fill these out, the percentages fill out down below here. So like if I change this, you can see that it also changes the color, because what we want to try to do is try it. And granted, there's times when you want to spend more than 8% of your budget on market or your revenue on marketing, but there's times, honestly, if you're well optimized, you shouldn't have to. And that's what I really want to focus on here, is making sure people know the benchmarks and the numbers that they should be aiming for. So if you know nothing about tracking metrics and you haven't tracked anything, these are the things I want you to start thinking about as you move into 2025. So that way next year when we do this, you actually have these numbers and you come prepared and you can make a plan. Okay. So this gives us our rates. Gives us kind of some benchmarks to aim for. I put in the tool that I want to grow about 25% next year, which seems attainable. So what this shows me is, based on this revenue, 25% growth would give me to about a $1.3 million company. And keeping the same gross profit percentage and net profit percentage, this is kind of what I would end up with as far as dollars goes. Next, I want to start figuring out where throughout the course of the year is my money or my revenue coming from. So I actually had ChatGPT give me an example of a $1 million company, and these are the numbers they gave me. But what you'll notice is the percentages down here. This is the important part. You can see where the majority of your money is coming. You probably know what that number is, but you may not know what the seasonality number is. With that seasonality number, we can now figure out what type of marketing budget we're going to need, how many leads we're going to need, because we know our marketing budget, we know how many jobs we need because we have all of our conversion metrics. So now when we come to next year and we did 60,000 in January of 2024, in order for us to stay on target, we know what our targets are now. As you can see, this totals up to 1.3 million. How many leads we need, what our marketing budget is for the year. This is based off of the percentage that you gave it. So it's gonna base it off 7.1% of your revenue. And more importantly, this also gives us this lead to sale rate. Okay, this is kind of taking like top line. Now we have a lead. How do we get them to be a paying customer? And this kind of matches up with Searchlight's data. If you guys do not follow Searchlight, they have a blog on a site called Substack. Would highly recommend you check that out so you can start to learn some of these metrics and what some industry benchmarks are. But this gives us an idea of what this is. Next, now that we know our conversion rates, this is really probably the biggest thing I want you guys to take away from this is what happens if we just take our conversion rates, maybe our call booking rate, our technician sold rate, our average ticket. What if we just bump them up just a little bit? So let's say, I'm going to keep this the same because we don't really have as much control as far as like from how many calls to leads, because sometimes spam and solicitors take over that. So I'm going to leave that the same. I'm going to bump this up 2.5%. I'm going to bump this up to just a nice even 70%. And we're going to add an extra $100 on our service tickets throughout the course of the year. So what this tool does is, if with the same number of leads that we had last year, if we take our booking rate from 52.5% to 55%, we're going to add an additional 49 jobs. Not doing anything else. I'm not adding any text. I'm not adding any marketing. I'm doing nothing but just doing better at taking a lead and getting them booked. Then if we take our technicians' close rate and we go from 66.7 to 70, now we've added an additional 69 sales to our business. And then an extra $100 a ticket, we almost hit our goal of 1.3 million, not adding a dime to our business, just doing better with what is already there. This is something you guys can play with, and that's why I put this on a subdomain so you guys can play with this and kind of see what this looks like for you. And this tool, even so, you see the projected revenue here. It's about $80,000 or $82,000 shy of the revenue target. So I got a little bit of room to make up based on this analysis, but not much, because I'm going to do better on the phones. I'm going to do better at home, and I'm going to also increase my average ticket. That might be as simple as just raising my price, or offering additional options, or maybe just doing a better job at having your team close while they're at the kitchen table. Really simple concept, difficult to implement. Some tools that can help you. When it comes to booking calls, there are tools out there like 𝐲𝐮𝐤.ai. Now, 𝐲𝐮 is for bigger companies, 4 CSRs or more is the minimum, but it analyzes your phone calls through AI and gives coaching. 𝐪𝐮 and I, if you guys know who 𝐪𝐮 is, we're developing an AI call analysis tool for smaller companies called PhoneTap, which will be ready for beta in January. And that will also help so you understand where you guys are struggling in your call center so you can fix it and grow. Rilla is a great tool. There are a couple other ones like CXC, 𝐸RO, which I think ServiceTitan calls Sales Pro. can help you with the in-home sales presentation so you understand what your team is doing. This is the key, and I can't stress it enough, and I'm not trying to deflect from any marketing that you guys are doing or thinking about. This is the key to growth right here, is conversion. What you get, convert it. And if you guys focus on that, I promise you, you'll grow your business, because this is the most important stuff that I've learned through the last 12 years that has helped me grow at every single business that I've ever been a part of. All right, I hammered on that long enough, and you guys have been here for over an hour, and I appreciate it. Most of you guys are still on the call. We're still staying strong, almost 40 people live. So lastly, I wanted to build some sort of marketing budget tool, so it kind of puts different buckets and things, so you can kind of figure out what that looks like for you. Some of you guys may want to be stronger in one area, maybe you don't want to do certain things. But I had some help with some other marketing leaders as far as putting these things together. So you guys can kind of play with that, but this totals up to that same marketing budget that we're looking for here. It totals up the monthly and annual budget. So that way you can decide what that means. So maybe in demand season, when you don't need to do a lot of marketing, you can take away from the PPC budget, put the PPC budget maybe where you struggle, and some of the timeframes that you struggle, because you know you're going to need leads then. When it's hot and you're in HVAC, all marketers, all contractors, everyone looks like a genius because it's really easy to get leads. So maybe you want to allocate some of that budget towards slower times when you need help getting leads. So that's kind of what this is designed to help with, is to have you start thinking about diversifying. I know we've had clients that come in and granted, they're probably a little too small to start with us. We're everything. And we are just primarily SEO, website, LSA, and the 𝐲𝐭 Pro. That's not everything you need to be doing for marketing. You need to be active on social. You need to be doing this bucket right here is probably one of the most underutilized bucket. I know somebody mentioned they're doing a lot of chamber events, doing stuff on Nextdoor and local like BNI groups. This stuff, we used to do this at Professional Services. It was awesome for us. We did BNI every single week. I hated going to the meetings, but we got a ton of referrals from it, so it was absolutely worth it to keep going. That stuff doesn't necessarily equate to dollars spent. It's more time spent, but it can pay off massive dividends for you guys that have actually done it. And you guys know what I'm talking about if you have. I would still do direct mail, things like clover leafing, which isn't necessarily direct mail, it's more like your team doing it, but hitting the 3 houses across the street and 1 house on each side of every service call, yard signs, stickers, there's thermostats you guys can get branded, magnets on the fridge. Anywhere somebody looks for information, try to be the name that shows up there. So that way they don't go to Google or they don't have to go somewhere else to find you. They always know who they're gonna call and why. Direct mail is something I would absolutely leverage, especially for your existing customers when it is time for inspections, or maybe you have a special for new equipment, or there's some kind of special promotion through your manufacturer or distribution reps. Leverage direct mail for people that know you already. Direct mail is pretty expensive if they don't know you. So I would focus on the people that do know you. Book your calendar up. This is one of the first marketing tactics I used at Iron Fireman, which was the first HVAC company I worked at. We had a really big list over the last like 20, 30 years for the company. And we finally just used it to just get tune-ups. And we booked out for weeks, just sending single postcards. Thank you for everyone that stood through the end here. This is the first time we've ever done this webinar, so sometimes I'm a little unsure of what we should include and not include. Recording will be sent out to you. Again, thank you very much for hanging out with me this afternoon. I really appreciate it. Take care, guys.